Hey hockey card fans, welcome back to the channel. I went to 3 different places over the past 2 weekends. Last weekend I went out to Woodstock to their antique market and picked up 6 hockey cards and paid only like $14 for them. But let's take a look and see what we got. First up, we have a rookie card from the 1975 O-Pee-Chee set. So this is Philadelphia Flyers' second Stanley Cup, and it's defenseman John Grisdale. I don't know much about him. I think I have another one of his cards. I do have a couple of his cards, now I think about it. He started his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs in 73, only played 49 games. Didn't play in 74 with them, and then 74-75 he was traded from Toronto to Vancouver. So he never really got a rookie card with Toronto, just with Vancouver. He was traded on October 14, 1974 with Gary Monahan to Vancouver Canucks for Dave Dunn. I'm going to say, because Dave Dunn didn't play much, he went to the WHA, and John Grisdale played some 200 games with the Vancouver Canucks, so, and then Monahan played too. So I'm going to give that trade to the Canucks. I don't like the Vancouver Canucks original logo. It sucks. So I only paid $1 for this one. Right, moving on. We are going to the 1972 O-Pee-Chee set. So this is 71-72. This is when the Boston Bruins won their second Stanley Cup of the 70s. We're going to go with defenseman for the Chicago Blackhawks, Doug Jarrett. I have several of his cards. Spent most of his career with the Chicago Blackhawks, but then went to the New York Rangers for 2 seasons before calling it a career with 775 games. Never won a cup. And it doesn't say what he was traded for, so it sounds like he went as a free agent or was just picked up off waivers. Then we have New York Islanders right winger Ed Westfall. I have several of his cards too. Long time. Started his career with Boston. Won 2 Stanley Cups with Boston, and then in 72-73 he went to the Islanders, where he remained for the rest of his career. Retired in 79, and then in 79-80 the New York Islanders won their first Stanley Cup. So yeah, he was claimed in the expansion draft by the New York Islanders. Good pick for them. He had 2 20-goal seasons with them, but he was tailing off at the end. We have Vancouver Canucks defenseman Barry Wilkins. I have several of his cards. He started his career with Boston, didn't win a cup with them though. And then went to the Vancouver Canucks for 5 seasons, then the Pittsburgh Penguins for 2 seasons, and then ended his career with the Edmonton Oilers and Indianapolis Racers of the W. He was part of the expansion draft by Vancouver from Boston, and then traded from Vancouver Canucks to Pittsburgh Penguins for Ab DeMarco. Did not play with Wayne Gretzky. Now we're going to New York Islanders defenseman Jerry Hart. I have one of his last cards when he was with the Quebec Nordiques. Then he went to St. Louis. Started his career with the Detroit Red Wings. Then part of the expansion draft to the New York Islanders. Stayed with the Islanders till 78-79. Then was sent to the Quebec Nordiques. And then later with the St. Louis Blues. 730 NHL games. Yep, claimed an expansion draft by New York Islanders from Detroit Red Wings. And then claimed an expansion draft by Quebec Nordiques from New York Islanders. And then traded from Quebec to St. Louis for future considerations. So he's part of 2 expansion drafts. That kind of sucks. He was left unprotected, but then valued. And finally, from the Woodstock one, we have Atlanta Flames right winger Lou Morrison. I have his card when he was with the Philadelphia Flyers. He then played 2 seasons with the Atlanta Flames. He was part of their expansion pick. And then he went to Washington Capitals, traded mid-season and played his final 200 games with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Not exactly a high scorer by any stretch. He scored 39 goals in 564 regular season games And in 17 playoff games, he had 0 goals. Claimed an expansion draft by the Atlanta Flames from Philadelphia Flyers. Claimed an expansion draft by Washington Caps from Atlanta Flames. And then traded from Washington Caps to Pittsburgh for Ron Lalonde. So he too was part of 2 expansion drafts. Alright, so we have... These are all $2 cards. 2 for $10. Grisdale was $11. The taxes are what cost me. I think they're all $2. Oh, I did have a 7th card, but I already had it. That was $2. I can't even remember what it was. I put it in my doubles pile. So that's why it cost $14. There's another card. But there we have it. 6 cards from from Woodstock. Moving on, we then went to a place called Maximum Cards and Collectibles in Whitby, Ontario. I've been there only once before, but because I was in Toronto, staying the night at the Sheraton Center, decided to go to Whitby. So we're going to a birthday party. So I got dragged to Toronto. So I thought, oh, the birthday party's near Whitby, so let's go there. So I only got 4 cards. These are very expensive because 3 of them are Hall of Famers. Now the first card is from the 1954 Parkhurst set. I paid $6 for this, and it's Boston Bruins center Cal Gardner. This place had quite a few cards. The price isn't bad. The shape isn't the greatest. This guy had 14 goals, 20 assists for 34 points in 70 games. Boston wasn't exactly a great team back then. He'd actually won 2 Stanley Cups with the Toronto Maple Leafs in 49 and 51. Started his career with the New York Rangers, went to Toronto, Chicago, Boston. Let's see his trade list here. Traded from New York Rangers with Bill Judda, Reen Trudell, and future considerations to Toronto Maple Leafs for Wally Stanikowski and Elwyn Mo Morris. I never heard of any of these guys. Then in same year, same day, he was traded from the New York Rangers with the same guys, with Bill Jusdell, Frank Mathers, and Reen Trudell. 2 Toronto Leafs for rights to Orville Slim Lavelle, Wally Stanowski, and Elwyn Mo Morris. So they must have redid the trade. They traded once, then decided it wasn't enough, and did it again. Huh. Interesting. Traded from Toronto Maple Leafs with Gus Mortensen, Al Rollins, and Ray Hennigan to Chicago Blackhawks for Harry Lumley. And then traded from Chicago to Boston for cash. So that's how he ended up in Boston. Got traded for cash. 4 seasons with Boston, did really well. Scored 57 goals in 280 games. But I think it's hard to find these cards in excellent shape for a good price. This card's not in good shape, but I don't care about shape. If I can get them cheap, I'll get them cheap. Then going back to the 1972 O-Pee-Chee set. So that's these guys. We're going to go with Detroit Red Wings center Marcel Dion, Hall of Fame card. Paid $10 for this. Other than these little spots in the corner, this is actually a beautiful card. In 78 games with the Detroit Red Wings, he scored 28 goals, 49 assists for 77 points in his rookie season. This is not a rookie card. They gave him a rookie card the year before, even though he hadn't played yet. But this is actually really, really good quality. Well, the quality of these other ones is pretty good too. But this is really good. Marcel Dion, more known for his days with the Los Angeles Kings, where he played forever. This was a guy who was 5'8", weighed 185 pounds at the height of his career, played over 1,300 games and had 731 goals to go along with 1,771 points. This is a guy who was just a consistent goal scorer throughout his entire career. 6 50-goal seasons, with his most being 59 goals. 71 assists for 130 points. That was back in 78-79. And then he had 53 goals, 84 assists for 137 points back in 79-80. So he had 5 straight 50-goal seasons to go along with 5 straight 100-point seasons. He had 8 100-point seasons in total. And this is a guy who didn't have hardly anyone with him. On his line, he had Charlie Simmer and later Dave Taylor. Came in trades. He didn't really have a good team around him. Alright, we're going to our second Hall of Famer. This too is from the 1975 O-Pee-Chee set. So this set up here. And it is center for the Philadelphia Flyers. First team All-Star, Bobby Clark. This card's in fairly good shape. A little bit soft in the corners. Paid $6 for this one. Hall of Famer. Helped win the Canada Cup in '72. 2 Stanley Cups. Won the Bill Masterton, won the Hart, the Lester, the Hart twice, 2 more times, and the Frank J. Selk at the end of his career. So he won 3 Hart trophies. Heart and soul of those '70s Flyers team. Alright, then our third Hall of Famer here is from the same set, the 75 O-Pee-Chee set. I paid $15 for this card. It's one of the big rookies of this set, and that is New York Islanders left winger Clark Gillies. This guy is in the Hockey Hall of Fame, won 4 Stanley Cups with the Islanders, played on a line with Brian Trottier and Mike Bossy. And this is before Trottier and Bossy came along. And this is a rookie card. Played 80 games at 25 goals, 22 assists for 47 points. Getting guys like Potvin and Clark Gillies, and then Trottier the next year with Bossy the following year, or 2 years later, was great for the Islanders. This was the guy who created space so that Bossy could skate around, so could move around. He fought all the toughest guys. You go on YouTube and you'll see Clark Gillies fights. Spent most of his career with the Islanders except for the last 2 years where he was with played like 86 games with the Buffalo Sabres. In fact, he was claimed off waivers by Buffalo from the Islanders in '86, which is too bad. 958 games, 319 goals. Injuries started taking their toll at the end of his career, the last 4 years of his career. You play that much hockey in the season. Like, not only are you playing an 80-game season, plus preseason, plus whatever preseason games they had. I think they played a lot of games in the preseason back then, if I remember right. Plus he's playing, so from 1979 to 1980, all the way up to 1983-84, the New York Islanders were in 5 straight Stanley Cup finals. That's 20 rounds of NHL hockey. They won 19 of those. That is a lot of deep runs. Plus he did the Canada Cup stuff in 81 and 84. So a heck of a player. Now we're going to my go-to place up near Toronto, which is the St. Jacobs Antique Market. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my card list with me, so I have to do everything by memory, and that's kind of iffy sometimes. The more cards you have, the more you're not sure what you're missing. So we're going to start with some 1971 O-Pee-Chee cards. So when Montreal won the Cup, Minnesota North Stars right winger Bill Goldsworthy. He was like their first All-Star, I would say. He was a captain of the team. Played with them right till 1977 when he got traded to the Rangers. Then he jumped to the WHA and actually played with Wayne Gretzky in 78-79. I have several of his cards. He actually started his career in Boston. Claimed an expansion draft by Minnesota North Stars from Boston Bruins in '67. And then November 11, 1976, he was traded from Minnesota to New York Rangers for Nick Beverly and Bill Fairbairn. I would say the Rangers won that trade. Nick Beverly later did not do much. And Bill Fairbairn was at the end of his career. So I paid $5 for the Goldsworthy card. And it's not in bad shape. Corners are fairly good. And then next we have center for the Vancouver Canucks and their captain, Orland Kurtenbach. Paid $5 for that card. It's in fairly good shape as well. I have his card when he played for the New York Rangers, but he previously played with Boston and Toronto as well. He would spend the rest of his career with Vancouver. I have several of his cards. Alright, and then from that set I have second team All-Star forward the Montreal Canadiens, Yvon Cournoyer, the Roadrunner. Heck of a player. Cornelius was. He won 8 Stanley Cups with the Montreal Canadiens. 968 games. He had 428 goals, 435 assists for 863 points. 147 playoff games. He had 64 goals, 63 assists for 127 points. He's in the Hall of Fame. 4-time All-Star, 1972-73 Conn Smythe winner, and part of the NHL's 100th anniversary team. He was one of the fastest players in the league back then. Imagine what he could do now with the conditioning. And he wasn't a big guy. He was 5'7", 178 pounds. Came close to scoring 50 goals back in 71-72. In 73 games, he had 47 goals. Hit the 40-goal mark 4 times. If he played a full 82-game season, he might have pulled off a couple of more 50-goal seasons. Back injuries did him in. 78-79, he played only 15 games and had 2 goals, 5 assists for 7 points. But all right, so that we have from that set. Now we're going to go back in time one more step to the 1970 O-Pee-Chee set. So this is when Boston won their first Stanley Cup. And we're going to go with left winger for the Montreal Canadiens, Pete Mahovlich. Paid $6 for this card. It's in fairly good shape. Pete Mahovlich won 4 Stanley Cups, but he's not in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I always thought he was. 2-time All-Star. Twice had over 100 points in a season. Got traded for Pierre LaRouche in 1977-78. But he was a big part of the line with Lafleur and Schutt for the first 2 Stanley Cups. They called it the donut line because of the hole in the center, which was unfair because Mahovlich was a pretty good player. His production started to slip though by 77, but he'd been in the league for a while. 884 games, 228 goals, 773 assists. 88 playoff games, he got 30 goals and 42 assists for 72 points. It's a pretty good playoff guy. And next, I got a rookie card here from the same set. Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Brian Glennie. I have several of his cards when he's with Toronto and with the LA Kings. Next up, we have... This is from a different set. These are from the 1969 O-Pee-Chee set, so Montreal won that year. And this is St. Louis Blues defenseman Al Arbour. I paid $2.50 for this card. It's got a rough corner here. He's wearing his glasses. He won the Eddie Short Award as Best Defenseman in the AHL in 64-65. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup winner as a player and a Hall of Fame as a builder. Played for the Detroit Red Wings, Chicago Blackhawks, and Toronto Maple Leafs. I actually have his rookie card with Detroit from Parkhurst. So he won a cup with Chicago, and then 2 cups with Toronto. Then went to the St. Louis Blues and went to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals with them as part of the expansion. I best know him as the guy who coached the New York Islanders to 4 Stanley Cups. So he was claimed an expansion drop by St. Louis from Toronto in 67, and then a couple of trades in his career. I have another rookie card here. Same year. Winger Brian Perry from the California Golden Seals. I've never heard of this guy. Paid $3 for this card. Never heard of him. He played 96 NHL games in his career. 16 goals, 29 assists for 45 points. 8 playoff games, 1 goal, 1 assist. Played for Oakland and 1 game for Buffalo. Jumped to the WHA and had 2 seasons in the W where he wasn't as bad. He was claimed an expansion drop by Buffalo from Oakland. Played 1 game, didn't do anything. And this is his only NHL card. Not bad for $3. Alright, right. Next. Going with the very first O-Pee-Chee set from 1968. O-Pee-Chee. This is the first time they came out. Or they came back anyway after a long delay. I think O-Pee-Chee had hockey cards back in the 20s. So they decided to get back into it in the late 60s. So I got Hall of Famer playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He happens to be one of their best golfers too. He was right winger Andy Bathgate. This is an interesting looking set. This is the first time I ever bought cards from this set. It's because it's before my time. I don't remember it, and I decided to go for it. Because when I was there, these are the only cards I know that I don't have any. So it's easy to pick. Won 1 cup, 4-time All-Star, Hart Trophy, in 58-59 in the 100th anniversary team. Did not know that about him. Started his career with the New York Rangers, then went to the Toronto Maple Leafs where he won a cup in 64. Then he went to the Pittsburgh Penguins and finally played 1 year played 11 games in the W with the Vancouver Blazers. Traded from New York Rangers with Don McKenney to Toronto Maple Leafs for Arnie Brown, Bill Collins, Dick Duff, Bob Nevin, and Rod Sealing. I would say the Rangers won that deal, getting Dick Duff, Rod Sealing, Bill Collins, Bob Nevin, Arnie Brown. Traded from Toronto Leafs with Gary Jarrett and Billy Harris to Detroit Red Wings for Larry Jaffrey, Eddie Yoel, Lowell McDonald, Marcel Pronovost, and Autry Erickson. I would say Toronto won that deal. And then in 67 he was claimed by Pittsburgh in the expansion draft. Pretty good player though. 1,069 NHL games, 349 goals, 973 points, and then another 35 points in 54 playoff games. Moving on. We have Philadelphia Flyers forward Andre Lacroix. Paid $5 for this card. Give it a low grade, they do. I wasn't fussy about the grade. I have several Lacroix cards. He was a big part of the Philadelphia Flyers when they first started. Three 20-goal seasons, then went to Chicago, then went to the WHA and tore up the league. I think he's one of their leading scorers in the WHA. Played 1 final season in the NHL in 79-80 with Hartford. 68, 69, 184. This is actually his rookie card. How about that? Did not know that. I have a couple of his other cards. We have Montreal Canadiens defenseman J.C. Tremblay. Same year. 5-time Cup winner. One-time Avco Cup winner with WHA. And then a 2-time All-Star. He probably should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But because he jumped to the WHA, that kind of upsets his stats. He played 13 years with the Montreal Canadiens. And then 454 games with the Quebec Nordiques. So only played for 2 teams in his entire career. He probably should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I know he's in the WHA Hockey Hall of Fame. Like their version of that. Yeah, JC won 5 Stanley Cups. 65, 66, 68, 69, 71. He was the stay-at-home defenseman type. I have defenseman from the St. Louis Blues, Jean-Guy Talbot. Another low-grade $3 card. This guy, he might be in the Hall of Fame too. He won 7 Stanley Cups with the Montreal Canadiens. Played for the Detroit Red Wings, St. Louis Blues, Minnesota North Stars, went back to the Blues, then went to the Sabres. So he's been around for a while. Nope, not in the Hockey Hall of Fame, but he was a 1-time All-Star. Sometimes you don't know if they're in the Hall of Fame or not. Alright, now we're moving with a guy I never heard of. We are going with Chicago Blackhawks defenseman Howie Young. I have never heard of this guy. Still have that short hair. NHL hadn't gone with the hippie movement yet. Played mostly with the Detroit Red Wings and the Chicago Blackhawks. Played with Vancouver. Went to the W. Played with Winnipeg Jets, Phoenix Roadrunners. Nope, he has a Topps card in 63-64. I was thinking this might be a rookie card, but it's not. Yeah, he played like 336 NHL games and had 12 goals for 74 points. 851 penalty minutes, so he's a guy you wouldn't want to mess with. Trade revealed in 67, trade revealed from Chicago to Detroit for Murray Hall. And then in 68, he was traded from Detroit with Gary Jarrett, Doug Roberts, and Chris Worthy for Bob Bound and Ron Harris. Alright, next guy, I have a couple of this guy's cards. New York Rangers forward Dave Ballon. Paid $3 for this card. Not a rookie card. He'd actually started his career with the Rangers, and then he played for the Montreal Canadiens. I actually might have his rookie card when he No, I don't. It's 50s. Won 2 Stanley Cups, 65 and 66 with Montreal. Went to the Minnesota North Stars, the Rangers, Vancouver Canucks, and finally the Nordiques. I have several of his cards from the 70s. Alright, last up, one last card. We have Toronto Maple Leafs forward Mike Shaky Walton. I have many of his cards, or a lot of his cards anyway. He won a Stanley Cup with Toronto in 67, their last one. 1972 with Boston. He won a cup. I have a couple of his WHA cards when he played for the Minnesota Fighting Saints. I have his cards when he played for the Canucks. But then he ended up in 78, 79 with the Blues, Bruins, and Blackhawks all in 1 year at the end of it. And there we have it. A whole bunch of cards. 24 cards from 7 different sets. It's good to start collecting these first edition O-Pee-Chee, but I was glad to get all these cards. The prices were kind of expensive for some of them. But what can you do? The further back you go, the more expensive they get. And I got a lot of Hall of Famers. A lot of good rookie cards. A lot of good Hall of Famers in there. So, can't complain there. Only a couple of mystery guys like Brian Perry and Howie Young. Everyone else I pretty much know from either having the cards or reading about before. Anyway, any hockey card fans out there, let me know what you guys think of this set. What's your favorite set, for that matter? I'd like to know. So leave comments in the comment section. Until next time, this has been Hockey Night in Belmont.